I'm Natalie Niddam, your host. Today I'm joined by Amitay Eshel and Anastasia Khodzhaeva, the duo behind Young Goose and two of the earliest voices bringing longevity science to skincare. Amitay comes from the red light therapy world. Anastasia's roots are in cancer research. Their thesis and company ethos are simple and bold. Youthful skin is an energy state. We get into why topical NAD Plus is better for your face than going the IV route, how Spermidine drives autophagy to clear zombie cells and even affects pigment, and their new non-staining Methylene blue peptide spray that plays beautifully with sunscreen. They have a great deal for you. Code NAT10 for 10% off for first-time customers and 5NAT for repeat customers. This episode is also brought to you by Just Thrive Digestive Bitters, Puri, best protein powder, and Profound Health Bioregulators for immune season, all with special offers just for you. See the show notes below for details and enjoy the show. Amitay and Anastasia from Young Goose, welcome back to the show. I'm so excited about this episode.
Thank you so much. We're so excited to be here. What an honor.
Technically, it's not back because last time we were here, the name of the podcast was a different name.
You're right.
So this is our first time on the Longevity with Natalie Niddam podcast.
It's true. And it's also the first time that Anastasia is on the podcast.
Oh, wow. As I said off air, she's the one telling me what to say anyway. So she was here twice already.
But I get extremely nervous during interviews, but I wanted to come on to speak to you because I love you so much and you're such a good interviewer and I love all of your interviews with other guests. So
all right. Well, I'm honored that you're here. So we're going to jump right in. Guys, if you want background on this brand, and we're going to talk about all the new developments and stuff in this episode, but we've also got a couple of other episodes with Amitay on the Biohacking Superhumans Performance podcast. So we'll put a couple of the links in the show notes to one of the, at least the most recent one, I think. In the meantime, what I want to talk about today is let's talk about skin longevity. Specifically, like why you? Like what's the thing the turning point that really made you decide that skin just wasn't about beauty, but is actually about cellular health? So I'm going to let you guys decide who answers what. Okay,
so I'll answer that because Anastasia looked at me and I don't know what it means, but I'll go. The problem with, I would say, like the industry of just the anti-aging industry as a whole. Mm-hmm. is the emphasis on results, like the basically, like if you think of any product that anyone intuitively judges how well it's doing, is how fast and how substantial the results were. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, when we're talking about visual appearance, first of all, you can look younger today at the expense of how younger you're going to look in 10 years. That's
okay.
Number one.
We can unpack that a little bit. Yes.
So maybe before I go to the next point, we can really think of health of our skin with three different pillars. The first pillar would be current youthful appearance, what I call like peak performance. How well does our skin perform now? Mm-hmm. The second is resilience. If something happens, whether you're sick, whether you're stressed, whether there is an internal stressor.
Yeah.
It could be hormonal shift. It could be, again, cortisol running rampant, but it could also be external stressors like UV radiation or pollution or anything like that.
Yeah.
How your skin deals with it would kind of be chalked to resilience. And actually, not you and I really off air had discussions about, you at some point optimized your health, but you were very susceptible to like a bug running through your system. So this is one doesn't beget the other necessarily.
Yeah.
And of course, I will mention Chris Traeger from Parks and Recreation.
Of course.
If anyone saw Parks and Recreation, that was discussed there. But the third one is longevity, is how well your skin's going to perform well into the future. And a lot of the procedures that people are doing now, for example, radiofrequency microneedling or soft wave or injectables, fillers, biostimulators, which are just sort of fillers that are kind of more liquid. All of those things might make you look better now, but they actually come at the expense of how well your skin is going to look in the future.
Is that because of blocking the lymphatic drainage and
some of it, but some of it, for example, I'm just going to not going to get into brands, but there are injectables that what they do is that they are registered by the body as a foreign object, which the body responds to by encapsulating those elements or creating fibrosis around those elements, etc. So it actually creates an inflammatory response, which creates a tissue that is not, I would say, supple and youthful, but it just adds potentially more volume. But that volume is not that big, but you're paying for it with mechanistic alterations, which is considered a novel form of aging, mechanistic alterations. Yeah. So your skin becomes basically more rigid, less flexible, less supple, and that way it actually incurs damage significantly faster and also relays damage to adjacent tissue that needs to interact with it faster. But lymphatic blockage, blood supply, scar tissue, all of those things are things that are, quickening, hastening aging as time goes on. And this is chalked into longevity. Us as a company, we actually try to cover all three. Yeah. And different products are going to do things differently. But I think this is a philosophy that's significantly different than a company that, even when they research their product, is like, oh, what is our product doing in 6 weeks or in 12 weeks? Studies, we design our products looking at studies, hundreds of studies that are looking more, that are through the lens of longevity. Okay, what happens in 6 weeks, but then what happens in 6 months and in 6 years?
Short-term gain for long-term, at the expense, as you started, at the expense of long-term better results. Yeah. You often say that youthful skin is an energy state. I love that statement. I really do.
It's Anastasia's statement. She said it.
So Anastasia gets to unpack what you mean by that for our audience. I think that's a really good place to start.
Really, if we go back to the very beginning and the origin of our brand, it all started out from our fascination with NAD molecule, NAD plus molecule. And at the time, it was way before it was kind of like, now it's becoming mainstream. Now more and more people know or heard about NAD plus or reap the benefits of it. But we're talking about us getting fascinated in 2015, thinking about it, weighing, if this is what we want to kind of put all of our eggs into the basket of NAD plus research, and then starting the research in 2017. And it's leading up to that, Amitay was already executive in the company of the red light therapy. So really, really kind of renowned in the red light therapy space. And kind of, again, back then it wasn't as mainstream as it is already now, but that's kind of like the beginning of really thinking about preventative medicine, regenerative medicine, some of the things that are so quick to mind now, and people using these terms and they were not existent then. And with me, I was part of cancer research for 2 years, and a lot of longevity drugs and longevity modalities and longevity treatments stem from research as such. So the NAD plus was just a perfect kind of molecule where both of our worlds kind of collided, and we just both saw so much potential. Because really, if your NAD plus levels circulating in your system are high, you're functionally youthful, you're biologically young. Everything functions as when you were young. So that's where the saying kind of comes from. And again, nowadays, there are so many people that already take NAD plus orally or get IVs, but back then it was so rare and so expensive. So we really wanted to bring it to the masses and create a topical transdermal delivery. Like topical kind of means that it stays in the skin, but our goal at the time was transdermal. We were looking for ways to how can we have everybody get access to NAD plus, on a budget. And so we looked at the transdermal delivery and then found out that actually skin cells, they're like keeping it to themselves. They're like, you know what? We've been starved of it. So we're not letting it go systemically.
Yeah.
And that's really where the big pivot happened for us as a company, from like the origin conception of idea of like, we'll be this supplement company to, okay, we're going to be a topical supplement company, skincare company. That really is kind of, I think, an important note to our origin story.
Hey guys, I've created a free gift to thank you all for being here and for being a listener of this podcast. I've put together a list of my top 5 peptides. So all you have to do to get your copy of that is to go to natniddam.com/top 5. And that's it. Let's get back to the show. I'm so glad you brought this up, Anastasia, which is that core nut that you deliver. If you deliver NAD to the body, it's never really going to make it to the skin because it's not a priority for the body to feed the skin that way. And if you apply it topically, the nice thing is that the skin's like, okay, you've been taking care of you for all this time, so I'm taking care of me now. And so, which is a very not scientific way of basically saying like and this will carry through. We're going to talk about other molecules you've taken that same approach to, which is let's treat skin like the organ of priority when we're providing this energy so that the skin can age better. And I think that's such a unique approach that you, as Young Goose, really bring to this space of beauty products.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes I hear about certain treatments or products, and a lot of it is like, okay, we have appearance of wrinkles, we have sunspots, we have like, let's eliminate all of the wrinkles. Let's just use products with like 15 acids and burn them all off, and like help it make sense, because the skin is supposed to fight off all of the aggressors, and that very beginning function of the skin protecting us from like all of our internal organs from everything outside. And there we go and just bombard it with very strong actives just for immediate gain of what Amitay was talking about, like make skin look good now. Yeah. So that was never the way we formulated. We always kind of thought about, okay, what is happening on a cellular level that leads to then certain pathways being activated, having this cascade of events that results in a wrinkle, results in the sunspots, because, younger people don't have those issues. So and they're still bombarded with the same aggressors, right? So they had better repair mechanisms.
Yeah, and I think to your question, because you basically said, and Anastasia said it a long time ago, this is a quote that I stole from her, probably from 2019, which is, aging is an energy state because you can think of NAD, which is that core currency, energy currency in the body, as the currency for repair. Mm-hmm. And the body really works at, I would say, like almost like switches, like the electric fuse box in your house. Imagine you needed to hold the fuses in place all the time. You would need a lot of energy to do that. You would need a lot of energy and a lot of different fingers, let's say that. And if you start to have less energy, one of the fingers is going to get tired and then you won't be able to hold that switch anymore. Yeah. And that switch is now switched towards aging. That's what happens to our body on the DNA level. I'm trying to explain now what is called epigenetics. Yeah. So in order to hold on to our genes that are supposed to be youthful, expressed youthfully, it's almost like a contracted muscle that all the time needs to be on, and it needs energy in order to do that, for that matter. Yeah. So once we start to lose NAD, and again, by the time we are 60 years old, 50, 60 years old, we have about half of what we started with. There are a lot of switches that are now not being held in place.
Yeah.
And by the way, and vice versa, switches that are supposed to be off that are now
Correct.
on.
Yeah.
That is very confusing to the system. And then it doesn't matter what we're going to do, whether we're going to use peptides, whether we're going to use, I don't know, we're going to use any type of stimulation to repair or to rejuvenate, right? Like any laser or microneedling, whatever you're going to do, you're working with tissue that actually doesn't have a very good response to what you're trying to have it do.
Yeah. And I think maybe also I just thought about the fact that even though you have very educated audience, maybe there will be somebody that listening to this podcast and they're like, what is NAD+ and why is it so important? And I'm not going to go into that could be a podcast on its own. I just will provide two science facts that I think paint the picture very well. Mm-hmm. One, if you don't have NAD+ in your body, you die in 10 seconds. It's very vital. You cannot run out of NAD+ and leave. So you really have to have it. And another one is that between the age 30 to 60, the amount of NAD left in your body is down by half. So you're really running on a 0.5% full battery that charges all of the repair processes and other processes too. It's in this case, when we're talking about anti-aging, it's we're just really care about repair, but it pays, the NAD pays for all your bodily processes. So you really want to look for ways to boost the levels of NAD+, again, to restore that youthful function, to restore how your body used to function when you were younger, but also action of raising NAD+ when you suddenly have more of it, and then they increase. That also turns on repair genes and kind of gives a boost to some of the repair processes. And that's why sometimes NAD+, IVs, certain protocols can be very helpful when people are fighting off diseases or any kind of conditions, because that also can trigger more targeted repair. So, and then again, as you said, unfortunately, when we're getting older and we want to get advantage of these modalities, IVs or oral consumption, the body already has a priority list. And especially for us females, the older we get, the less the body prioritizes beauty organs. So your skin, your hair, your nails is all of that was signaling your reproductive, ability and was serving to attract the mate. And now it's it's off the table,
Right.
So you can get IV and you can feel so much better, and it will be going towards your liver, your brain, all of the important organs. I don't want to now say that skin is more important than your brain or your liver. But if you want to benefit for your skin, if you want to regain that youthful skin function, then you got to do it topically. And that's what the research showed us.
Beautifully said. Yeah. Okay. So you guys were among the first to introduce the NAD precursors in skincare, but also Spermidine. And we've kind of talked about NAD now. So what made you take that leap before anybody else? And NAD we've kind of talked about now, but let's talk about Spermidine a little bit, because Spermidine is another molecule or compound that is naturally occurring in the body. Levels low, drop as we age. And so, you two really kind of took a leap on this one and decided, no, we're going to be the first ones. We're going to include that in our skincare.
A lot of the times we can be the first one to market with things is because we're more adventurous than other skincare companies, and we have full control of what we're doing because it's just Amitay and I. We don't have a whole suite of investors. We have none. It's just us. And we have
employees, but
but we have that freedom. We have the creators' freedom. And when we see that there is research and there's molecules, and we invest in additional research to make sure that it's actually bioavailable for the skin, and we have the opportunity to give it to the world, we will go ahead and do that despite all odds. And what are the odds? Well, one of them is that the consumer is not educated. When we put out in 2020 our first product, when it hit the shelves and hit online, it was ready a little bit before, but consumers didn't know what's NAD+. So we really had to start a podcast and other channels of education because we know it's the best for your skin, but you don't know because all you hear about is hyaluronic acid, vitamin C, retinol, etc.
Yeah.
So other companies, they don't have that freedom to risk it all for new molecules because they have investors and investors don't want to take risks.
I think it's also like the hierarchy of decision making for other brands. It's not necessarily that they don't want to take risks, is that they look at risk a little bit differently. The first thing in our hierarchy is what does this, we look at longevity study, what works on whole organisms, like what works to increase the lifespan of all organisms. So maybe we'll take, Spermidine is a great example because it could increase lifespan of like C. elegans by like 20% or 30%,
Yeah.
But other molecules, for example, that we didn't go with, for example, C60 is a much more problematic molecule because it actually makes you significantly sun sensitive. We see what works for the entire organism, and then we see what will work for the skin in the best way. Again, meta-analyses of studies, looking at study charts, and then obviously conducting our own R&D. With other brands, the most important thing is that the most amount of people would know what they're talking about, and we're going to have a positive story arc as far as a molecule or an approach. Approach would be, for example, clean. Molecule would be, for example, urolithin A.
Going back to Spermidine, why we actually, out of the suite of up-and-coming longevity molecules, why did we go for Spermidine? It complemented our formulations already very well. NAD+ does a lot, and we talked about what it does in terms of really turns on repair processes and gives the cells energy to go about their daily functions better. But there are other issues that are happening in the cell and other issues that are contributing to those 12 hallmarks of aging. And that's what Amitay was really saying, that we're looking at the whole organism and how the aging happens in all levels. And Spermidine has so much data of being so paramount to addressing hallmarks of aging. The most important claim to fame for this ingredient will be autophagy. So really helping to recycle old and malfunctioning organelles out of cells, and helping that way also with senescence, which probably your audience knows, accumulation of malfunctioning zombie cells. And believe it or not, obviously, skin being the largest organ accumulates a lot of senescent cells. So I was going to say, believe it or not, the most amount of senescent cells are found in the skin. So it's really was important for us to find the ingredient that will help fight that off. And then on top of that, melanocytes. So that's exactly where melasma is coming from when you have extra production of melanin by these melanocytes, skin cells. They are very influenced by senescence and accumulate senescence. And that's a lot of times that extra unwanted uneven pigment that we see on the skin. So it was just bringing the results that we needed to bring to our products.
Fun fact. Melanocytes also have the ability through autophagy to get rid of pigment. So, for example, we could use other molecules like vitamin C, for that matter, where they kind of inhibit the expression of pigment from the melanocytes. It can actually kind of send the pigment, the tyrosine, back to the melanocyte, and the melanocyte literally undergoes autophagy and gets broken down to where it is not a pigment anymore, which is really cool. Wow. And there are in vivo kind of videos of how melanocytes are doing. It's pretty cool. That's something that's really important to understand about autophagy. And autophagy is actually not a single term. It's a term that describes that recycling in all organelles known. So it could be in the mitochondria, it could be mitophagy. There are many other ones.
Endoplasmic reticulum autophagy. Yeah, all the things.
Yeah, exactly. Endoplasmic reticulum, we're going to talk about exosomes, which is an empty endoplasmic. Never mind. You can think of anything. Think of meat that you bought and sits in your fridge, or peas, whatever you're into, okay? Everything in nature has an expiration date. Well, guess what? Everything that your body makes is making currently has a label on it saying, consume by, or something like that.
Yeah.
Autophagy is the action of reading that label and deciding what to do with this as time goes on.
Love it.
Well, in our body, there are like things that are kind of resisting that, like going around and like hiding those labels. That's part of aging. So what Spermidine is doing is really kind of increasing the ability to read those labels and deciding to then take stuff out of the fridge and make a delicious meal of more collagen with them or whatever, in order to basically improve those three aspects that I mentioned before, which is optimal performance, how your skin looks right now, resilience, and longevity. So It's a magical molecule that is the most effective, or autophagy is the most effective lever to pull when we're talking about the hallmarks of aging, because it affects the most of them.
You want to talk a little bit about what changes people really notice when they're using a product with Spermidine in it? Like, what's the first thing people will notice?
Quite surprisingly, and I don't know if you know that, but it's one of them being hydration. And we're using like a full spectrum one. So there is also spermine and pyridine. So it's not just this one isolated molecule, and they really work better as a complex. So they all actually have different benefits to the skin, but as a complex, what ends up happening is that it improves skin microbiome, it improves skin barrier, and skin barrier is really foundation of skin health. If you have good intact skin barrier, that's, lets the stuff that you want in, and doesn't let the bad stuff in, and doesn't let the hydration to go out, which is transepidermal water loss. And it's actually a measurement of your skin hydration, that the less it loses moisture, the more it retains moisture, the more hydrated your skin is. You personally experienced our very first formulation care with NAD precursors. Yeah. And then when we launched the Youth Daily, which has Spermidine and NAD plus complex, I don't know, maybe you can attest to it too. Like, the skin is a lot more hydrated when you use Youth Daily. And that's that addition of Spermidine first and foremost. It just really has that effect. And then, of course, as a complex, when you use them, and we have other molecules in our formulation, it's not just NAD plus and not just Spermidine. And each one that we choose, it really just helps your body kind of be guided better, like your skin cells to be guided better, because they don't know wrinkle is a problem, or they don't know sunspots is a problem. So each ingredient in the formula has its job. Like, one of them is being also like pointing out that repair is needed, and the other one fueling that repair. So it's a really like a team effort. Across the board, you will see diminishing appearance of wrinkles and sunspots, but it's like a slow and gradual process versus using something harsh. Is like, now I'm gonna use high concentration of retinol or glycolic acid or HA, BHA. It's like it's a different approach.
I'll tell you something. Imagine you are using conventional skincare products. What they are, it's like modern day parenthood. We have a 1 and 8-month-old baby. That's all my analogies.
Yeah.
It's like, the house is a mess, and you're trying to talk to the kid nicely. Tell the kid, the toys need to be in place. Well, imagine what happens if the kids don't listen to you, and you have a lot of kids aging. What happens? Everything goes, it's like 1 million kids running around in the house. They have no idea what they're doing. Yeah. And you're trying to be there, a normal skincare product. Basically, you're using vitamin C, you're using retin-A, you're using tretinoin, whatever that is. These are simply nice instructions to the body. If instructions are too rough, if you're just screaming around instructions, you're going to get the kids more riled up. If you're too weak, the kids are just not going to listen to you at all. There is not going to be any response. But in any way, it's not going to get any better as time goes on. And again, more aging is expressed, which means more rowdy kids around the house. At some point, you need micromanagement. And that's not a word that we like to hear. But at some point, you need many more people in the house taking the kids by the hand and telling them, hey, you left some Legos on the floor. Let's go and pick it up together. Let me show you how things are done correctly. Remember when you were a good boy last week and you picked up your toys? Let's do that again. This is the difference between longevity skincare that kind of micromanages youthful function, and general anti-aging, screaming into the void type skincare. Okay?
I love it. Screaming into the void. Okay, so on that note, we're leaving the topic of NAD and Spermidine behind because you have new products coming down the pipes with new compounds that people might not always think about as good for skin. And one of them in particular, I remember mentioning to someone something about this compound in skincare coming soon. And they looked at me and they're like, aren't you worried about looking like a Smurf? So we're talking, of course, about methylene blue as a longevity tool for skin. So let's talk about what made you see it that way and what makes methylene blue different from all those antioxidants for skin that people already know, like vitamin C, vitamin E. Can you just fill us in a little bit on what drew your attention to methylene blue and what makes it different from the other guys out there?
So first of all, this is my baby. Our methylene blue, new methylene blue product, which is called Blue Peptide Spray, is really my baby. It took a while for us to work on it. And the reason it's my baby, it's because it's a compound that you and I both share passion for, orally or buccally, right?
I was pregnant, breastfeeding, and for too long. I haven't been using it. So that's why it really is Amitay's baby, because
you couldn't do anything with it.
Loves it and gets so much benefit out of it. And I'm going to pass the mic to you in a second.
Listen, I can talk about it until I'm blue in the face.
Exactly. But he's been the research has been done on for skin for a while, and we've known about the research. And for a while, we've been friends with transcriptions, and we always knew we're going to do it together, and we're going to work it out, and we're going to, do the research, but it did take a lot longer to get it right.
Thankfully, we have access to an R&D facility. So that makes things a lot easier, because so we can talk about what methylene blue is, but the first thing it is a blue dye. Mm-hmm. And the challenge is that the study that's been done was really a bunch of mechanistic studies looking at cells and how they respond to methylene blue. No one cared if there is a blue tint to the cell for a while, right? When we're talking about human beings, that's a problem, because you don't want a paint job, right?
So, not on your face, not that kind. No.
No, exactly. So we had to, for a while, grapple with how do we create it non-staining. When we figured that out, and that is proprietary, this obviously is our kind of an advantage. We could load the formula with enough, so we have about in the formula we have about the same ratio you're going to have in an IV, for example.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay, that's pretty high dose.
Yes, we could figure out how, what goes around that, or what can benefit from better mitochondrial function. Again, it reminds me, going back to Andrew Huberman, it reminds me how Andrew Huberman had Peter Attia on the podcast, and they were throwing around a bunch of very fancy, longevity terms, and then they just ended up talking about mitochondria and mitochondrial decline. And they said, we could talk about all of these different aspects, but really what happens is our mitochondria becomes dysfunctional, and everything else goes down the drain.
Yeah, and it comes back to energy, right? It comes back to your energy system. Like at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So
it's energy system, but it also the ability to recycle energy. So it's not, we think of energy as consumption and kind of burning off, that's how we think of energy, something we burn off. But most of the energy systems in our body, whether it is catecholamines in the brain, whether it is our ATP and NAD, are cyclical. They rely on kind of, it's a autarchical type of system where most of it is getting replenished, is going from one state to another. And as we grow older, again, that is what we don't do that well. It's not like we don't have access to food, right? Actually, most people in the United States and on this planet have access to too much food, right?
Well,
but what we don't have access to is the efficiency of recycling energy. And that's where, again, a few molecules that we have in blue peptide spray come into effect, but especially methylene blue is a compound to do that.
What else is in there? What else is in the blue? So the blue comes from the methylene blue only, or is there anything else blue in there?
There is another molecule that helps it have this beautiful blue color, which is one of your favorite molecules, which is GHKCU.
Yeah.
And probably your audience knows, but it's worth repeating. It's a peptide complex. And it really gives that instruction to your body to go ahead and produce more collagen, more elastin, and really by in our mid-20s, we're starting to drop off and in collagen, so the collagen starts to decline, and in our mid-30s, it's elastin. That's when all the skin sagging kind of starts to happen. So that compound, when used wisely in a good team, can be really helpful. That's about the ingredients that also make it blue. There is also superoxide dismutase there, SOD, which also helps with the proper energy state and rescheduling. Of course, our NAD plus Apex complex, so boosting NAD plus levels.
This is our fourth iteration of NAD enhancement in the skin. So every time we have a new formulation, we go back to the lab. There are new things that we can kind of apply to improve NAD state in the skin. Yeah. We kind of talked about NAD a little bit, but I already talked about two concepts. First concept is what NAD does, how it supports regeneration, etc. But the other one is just what I mentioned, is that most of the NAD is being recycled. Mm-hmm. So what we have in the NAD Apex is both precursors and actually even a newer precursor, which is called MN20, which are basically like the building blocks of NAD. Yeah. But we also have a different extract there, which is actually from sunflower, but it's a highly bioactive extract that what it does, it actually stimulates the recycling pathway, the salvage pathway in the skin, which is called NAMPT, which helps us recycle more NAD. Yeah. So it's kind of a complete picture of how NAD can be restored to extremely youthful levels topically.
Yeah. And what makes me really excited about this product is that it's a product that you can just carry with you anywhere you go. You can apply it over makeup, your midday, start of the day, end of the day. And it's just really that boost of all of these ingredients we talked about and everything they do for your skin on demand. Because all of the other products that we have in line, you kind of have to do them either in the morning or in the evening. You're not going to start like in the middle of the day, reapplying your serums and moisturizers, especially if you're a woman and you're wearing makeup. But this is really just changing the game. And I'm just so excited for people to have the benefits of this product in this capacity. And I just think it will upgrade everyone's skin.
In terms of using it, would you or would you not use it either in your morning or your evening routine? Would you just use it during the day?
I personally use it right after the cleanser and before amplifying essence. It could be interchangeable. Some people won't need both the spray and the essence. Okay. I feel that I do. So I use both. And it also kind of depends on how my skin feels. If I wake up with the skin that feels, kind of like oily, depending on the day of the month, I'm not going to use both. But the spray kind of became my go-to. So yes, you would use it in the morning right after the cleanser and before your serums. And then same place in the routine in the evening. There's no contraindication with any other skincare products. It plays well with other ingredients. It's not sensitizing your skin at all, which is a good thing, so for people.
You put it over makeup.
And then during the day, as I was alluding to it before, I just love it that I can just refresh with makeup, without makeup, wearing SPF, without SPF. It's just it's amazing.
One of the things that is expressed, so Anastasia mentioned superoxide dismutase, SOD. So SOD is, if you asked like a real skin expert, they're going to tell you as an antioxidant, it's more important in the skin than glutathione.
Interesting.
Or
vitamin C.
What are they taking to go to sleep?
Melatonin.
Yeah. So superoxide dismutase actually has 3 different genes that are there. It has more, but 3 different designated genes to express superoxide dismutase cellularly. So it has more, but 3 major ones. So by having a very efficient way to deliver superoxide dismutase to the skin, together with methylene blue, and actually spirulina extract that we have there as well.
I mentioned spirulina. Yeah, it was a long list of ingredients.
But I tell you, spirulina is very good for the brain. So if you feel it for good, never mind. Okay, so these 3 components all have significant reduction of oxidative stress, which is what happens when you are exposed to UV radiation. When you're exposed to UV radiation, you are that UV is being transcribed or translated to oxidative stress when it's traveling through your skin, and that is where damage comes from. By the way, whether it's to your mitochondria or in general to your DNA or just to your skin. And to your question, what's really cool about methylene blue, and maybe Anastasia wants to talk a little bit more about it, is that this is what we call a cyclical antioxidant. It's not a sacrificial antioxidant. So sacrificial antioxidant is going to basically kind of nullify the free radicals and be now at a balanced state where it doesn't damage the skin but doesn't help the skin. And methylene blue goes back and forth from that neutral state to an electron donor state, which fights free radicals, and it can kind of do it over and over and over again. And the third thing is that it's not photosensitive. So vitamin C, for example, or vitamin E, 99.999% of antioxidants, I mentioned C60, are photosensitive, which means that they degrade when they're exposed to sunlight.
Right.
And methylene blue is not only not, it's actually the contrary of that because of what I mentioned.
I was going to say the same thing. Basically, when you asked about how the methylene blue interacts with UV, I wanted to say that actually, believe it or not, like having it alongside of your SPF is a really good combo because they complement each other so well. One being like shielding your skin from UV, but the other one is actually helping nullify that oxidative damage that does happen upon UV hitting your skin. So
yeah, because I would see other use case scenarios for this product as also when you're flying, like when you're on a plane and you're being exposed to all that crazy. I mean, there's radiation, there's toxin, bad air, there's all the things. And then also when you are heading outside into the sun, like I would almost spray it onto my arms also.
She caught me in the bathroom spraying it all over my body the other day. So
what are you doing?
I mean, honestly, it's a must. Carrying it, like I use it, after I work out to kind of like help rehydrate your skin, because if you sweat, you kind of lose some of that moisture and minerals. So it's amazing. Like in your gym bag, when you're traveling, again, for the purposes of like hydrating and delivering all of those actives and the things they do for your skin.
One of the studies which makes like perfect sense together with what we know about its protection, it's like in neuroprotective abilities or mitochondria protective abilities, is how it interacts with in-office treatments like lasers or again like anything that would stimulate an inflammatory response. Because I'm sure you've touched on it when you talked to experts in red light therapy or experts in mitochondrial health. When there is an injury in a tissue, what happens to the mitochondria in that tissue, in the cells of that tissue, many of them become dysfunctional in a way where they're going from a gathered state to a splayed state, what we call elongated mitochondria. Yeah. And elongated mitochondria, normally if we Google what mitochondria looks like and we see this cute pillow-like, kidney-like
It's a cute little thing, yes.
This is a what we call a gathered state mitochondria, which means that it is very efficient at moving electrons around, and it relies on this like almost think of like a Super Mario's type, like jumping between the whatever they're called in Super Mario, like jumping between bases or whatever.
Yeah,
and these are called complexes in the mitochondria, and it does it very efficiently, but it relies on a sort of a tension that exists in the mitochondria. And when mitochondria, again, when there is a damage to the tissue, whether we planned on it or not, whether we wanted it or not, mitochondria becomes elongated, and that gradient, that tension it kind of dissipates. And a lot of those electrons then kind of escape that kind of a gravity that the mitochondria has, if you would.
Yeah.
And that actually creates more oxidative stress and makes it so it is much more costly energy-wise to create energy. Mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, okay? So just, so what is insane about methylene blue, aside from everything that we mentioned until now, methylene blue can place itself on the perimeter of mitochondria, and I'm talking in heuristics right now, but it can place itself and it can bridge that gradient. It can actually kind of bridge the ability of electrons, kind of donate the electrons, but it can also to create more energy, but it can also bridge the not really damage, but that gap in gradients and not allow mitochondria to kind of leak, what we call leaky mitochondria, plate state mitochondria. So aside from everything else, it allows, and that's what we see in a couple studies looking at combining it pre and post laser and microneedling, combining it with controlled damage to the skin, that it radically changes the downtime that we see, the amount of collagen remodeling or cellular turnover that we see. The tissue behaves completely differently or drastically differently, if you would, to a comparable tissue of any age, because it actually changes the biophysics of that tissue.
Beautiful explanation. I think it's going to be an amazing addition to the lineup. So, not that I want to leave the magic blue peptide spray behind, because I think it is likely to be one of my faves, if not my favorite. But I do want to make sure we touch on exosomes, because you've coined a new term. Or you've pioneered this new term called quantified exosomes. And, everybody's talking about exosomes right now. There's exosomes for injection. There's exosomes for this, exosomes for that. But we know that there are these little packets of information that bring instructions to cells and help things to happen. But let's talk about where they fit in on skin health. And then what exactly does quantified exosomes really mean?
This new product, for us, it's called Vampire Exosomes, the product we're talking about. And the name kind of alludes to a little bit its origin. So we opted for PRP-derived exosomes, so platelet-derived exosomes. And there's, like you were saying, that there are so many exosomes right now. There's so much buzz around it, and there's so many options. There's a lot of skincare companies that have stem cells derived exosomes. So
or plant
derived exosomes, and we're happy to kind of go into why we chose one over the other.
Well, I mean, I think also for skincare, you're looking for different things, right? So
yeah. When it comes to plant derived exosomes, they're never going to be speaking exactly the same language with your body. It's like if you're speaking to someone and they speak a different language, you might work things out and you might understand sort of each other, but it's not going to be a perfect communication. And that's why we always knew we're going to go for the human derived. And then, as you were saying, exosomes, they're messengers. So all cells release them, every single type of cell. And it's really the message that we want to stick with. And platelets, these are the type of cells that arrive first to injuries. So when we speak about skincare application and the exosomes that will do well for our skin, we really are looking for those messages that platelet cells release. You know, they really speed up renewal, wound healing, and that's why we went for the platelet-derived exosomes.
And I want to make sure that people, I think no one really understands that exosomes are not the cure here. They're not the active ingredient here. It's like saying liposomal. Liposomal, what? I'm waiting for you to tell me what have you lipolyzed, right? So exosomes carry within them growth factors. They carry within them different things. But what is really important that they carry is something called microRNAs. That's what we should care about. If we didn't care about that, exosomes would be irrelevant, and we could just give your skin normal growth factors, which have or peptides, proteins for that matter, which have very limited kind of whole cell effect over time. And then the exosomes wouldn't be relevant. But why do we want exosomes? So these microRNAs that exist in the exosome, you think of any function that you want your body to do. And when we're talking about, what PRP specifically, they get out of this exosome envelope, if you would, which is a nano envelope. It allows things to be absorbed into the skin extremely well. It's nano-sized.
Yeah.
And they actually attached to your DNA expression, to the mRNA. And if we remember, we talked before about turning on and off and on genes. They go ahead and turn on youthful genes that are responsible for repair and turn off old genes. So they're the body's way of selectively investing energy for youthful function where it really needs it. So imagine if you had like a gash, your body is going to bring exosomes there through platelets, for that matter, because it needs a better function than it would need, in your, skin around your knees where nothing happened, for that matter.
Wow.
So it really,
good skin around your knees too.
Yeah, maybe you scraped your knee too, then it needs it too. Anyway, so, but really what we care about is the amount of microRNA.
Okay.
And what microRNA we want as well, because in your adipose tissue, for example, some of the signals are going to be for genes that are irrelevant for the skin. So we really care about genes that are relevant for the skin, whether it is, for example, by the way, autophagy and senescence are extremely important when we talk about recover or renewal of skin. So these are specific microRNAs that we want there. Another one is for antioxidant activity, like superoxide dismutase, things like that. So we really want to go to where there is a more prevalence of skin repair microRNAs, and that's going to be in platelets rather than umbilical cord or adipose tissue or bone marrow aspirate or anything like that. So that's number one. Number two, a company can sell you a story on the amount of exosomes that it has. And by the way, when you think of, we paid thousands of dollars to have exosomes microneedled into our face. What we paid for, the ratio was $1 per exosome, for that matter. It wasn't $1 per microRNA, but that's really what you should care about. So the idea of quantifying exosomes is first knowing how many exosomes there are in a bottle, or for that matter, in a dose. So we know, for example, with every bottle, you're going to have, per 30 ml, you're going to have about 3 trillion exosomes. That's by the way, between 3 to 10 times more than any other company in the market.
Wow.
And then, but what is the concentration of microRNAs? So we're going to be the only company that are going to have third-party data saying, we have 42% microRNAs there. And what is the makeup of the microRNAs? Which I think is very important, not necessarily for that consumer, because really no one's going to know what to do with that information, but it's really important to drive the industry forward with transparency. That's why we're doing it. We're not necessarily doing it to have more people buy our product. It's to make sure that people get, down the line, the best service.
So the quantified exosome product can be kept at room temperature, and everybody's
shelf stable.
Okay. And then how does that translate into practice for somebody applying at home? Like, how does every dose so if you've got, what did you say, 30 trillion?
3 trillion.
3 trillion and 30 ml. It's kind of easy, yeah.
In 30 ml. So if a pump is what, 0.1 ml? 2.2?
0.5 ml.
Yeah. So you're getting a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even pretend to do the math, but you're getting many. You're just getting a lot of those microRNAs, a lot of that instruction to the skin to do the work of turnover.
Yeah, you're getting about 50 billion per thing, per dose, per
pump. Okay, cool. Wow. Okay, so where does this one fit in?
It's going to be a more premium priced serum. If you have the means for it, you can use it morning and night. I assume that a lot of people will save it for the night. And the nighttime is anyway when our skin undergoes its own cycle of repair and regeneration. So you always want to save your most pricey skincare investments for the night if you can do it both morning and evening.
Yeah, so at 30 ml, when you're going to use 2 pumps, which is 0.5 ml each time, would be either 60 days if you used it once per day, or 30 days if you used it twice per day.
Okay.
I can tell you that for me,
would you use it before or after, or instead of any of the other products at night?
So I layer it with Youth Reset. I apply Youth Reset first, and then apply the exosome serum on top. So again, if you can layer. But it is the type of product that is sufficient on its own. You don't have to have more serums. It doesn't require anything else.
I would say one challenge, what you would want to make sure that your routine has is a moisturizer.
Yeah. Well, technically with any serum, you should make sure that you have a moisturizer, because serums are not moisturizers.
Right.
But with exosomes in particular, they're doing great job, and they're really provide you with regenerative treatment, but you have to make sure that you seal and hydrate. You have a good level of hydration.
Okay, so then it would be the Bio Reset serum, the exosomes.
In terms of protocols, so the way you could layer it in an advanced routine, you could have you wash your face with a cleanser, then you spray blue peptide spray, then you apply the Youth Reset serum. Optionally, you can apply Amplifying Essence before the Youth Reset serum, depending on how dehydrated you are and what kind of climate you are in. If it's really cold and you have a lot of heating, you might want to layer that hydration. So Amplifying Essence comes great. So then after Amplifying Essence, you could put any serum. It could be Youth Reset. It could be BioBerry if somebody prefers that. Really anyone from the line. I would save the exosomes next, because it is thicker. You always want to go thin to thick.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a jelly texture. And then you apply the moisturizer on top. And then if it's a night routine, you finish with a hyperbaric mask. And again, that added hydration will really pay for it. And if you're doing it during the day, then you finish with the SPF.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay, well, that answered my next question, which is the longevity matrix at home. So that pretty much outlines it for people, which I think is fantastic. Just a few more questions here. I think both of you are going to love this one, and you're going to have to decide who comes up with what. But what are, in your opinions, the biggest myths in skincare longevity that you'd like to clear up once and for all? Just put it to bed.
So I think it's connecting to what we kind of talked now about, the general names, and hoping that it's gonna create results somehow. So we talked about exosomes. They're not all created equal. You can't just read the label saying exosomes. It might be plant, which is almost irrelevant, doesn't do much for the skin. It's just a normal antioxidant. to, what we talked about today, which is great complexity. Same thing with peptides. Same thing with different vitamins and their forms, like vitamin C. Some of the vitamin C, like ascorbic acid, is actually negative in the whole for the skin. And other forms like THDA or magnesium ascorbyl phosphate, sodium ascorbyl phosphate are actually positive, and they don't behave the same. They don't absorb to the same levels in the skin. So I think like general names and then the inference of how they work in the skin, or just relying on percentages for if a product is effective or not, like, 30% vitamin C, I'm going to take this one because the other one's only 20%. These are, I think, big misconceptions in skincare as a whole. And I think it's going to take, a couple decades before this is going to change, because the main consumers, they don't realize that yet, or they don't even want to deal with it.
Well, and it's a lot of information, right? Like, to your point, a 20% serum of the right vitamin C is going to be more powerful than a 30% serum of the cheap variety that's not really going to do that much for you. So it's really, it's digging beyond just, as you say, what it says on the box or the bottle. And to me, it's about finding the people you trust, so that, or doing your own research, or both, but really getting down to the bottom of it. More is not always better. It's really about the specifics of what it is that you're using.
Yeah, I mean, I see dermatologists online, influencer dermatologists, promoting, $10 products and saying, oh, it has peptides, so it's good for wrinkles or something like that. So it's very,
Yeah, 100%. Anastasia, is there anything else you'd like to add to that? Is there a big myth in skincare you just want to bury right here, right now?
There is a big trend with salmon sperm facial, and I would really love that to
I've seen horrible pictures. Yeah.
It's one of those things where you wonder that people would just put anything really inside their body, if it's trendy and if it's viral and if there is results, because there is really no data, long-term data of it's being effective. And then when you think, the reason that I really want to put it to rest is because it's the source. Here at Young Goose, what really is differentiating us as well, and we didn't kind of touch on it behind the scenes, and we didn't touch on it during this podcast, is ingredient sourcing, because you could have vitamin C serum for $5 and for $500, and a lot of it has to do with the type of vitamin C there. So so we just always go for the premium pharmaceutical grade ingredient, usually trademarked, with lots of research and data, etc. But when it comes to when you get this facial done, you don't have the information about the salmon. Was it wild caught? You don't have that proof. So most likely it is basically you do know it's farm raised. And anyone that's a little bit into health and wellness, they know how bad farm raised salmon is. It's one of the dirtiest fish there can be, with microplastics and whatnot. And you're just putting, something of that origin in your body. And it's so foreign also to your body. There are so many complications that, but the algorithm kind of doesn't pick those up. And I've seen people reporting having nodules in their skin and just their skin not accepting the treatment. So that is one of the trends that unfortunately became really viral this year. And I don't love that. And another one that we talked often about on our channels, because we really kind of made it our mission to save as many people from this treatment as possible. I think there is a myth going around that this trend is effective, this treatment is effective, and it's radiofrequency microneedling. Really, the ratio of benefit to damage is just so skewed. There's so much damage that your skin and your organs undergo. A lot of people do it on their neck, and there is just so much risk for thyroid complications down the road.
Yeah, we just had a conversation with someone. I don't remember who it was with, but we were talking about it, and they're like, "Yeah, I know. That's why I do it only on my neck." And we were like, don't do that.
I know.
Okay?
I know. Yeah, so I think I'll stop at those two since we're doing two, but
Okay.
there's lots that's going on in skincare industry.
Yeah, no, and you're going to get to bust a couple more here. I have a couple of quick fire questions before I let you go. So and these are kind of myth busting. So there's a belief that topical NAD precursors do not work. What would you say to that?
Actually, there's a new study that came out, two new studies that came out. One is on NMN bioavailability and what it does, and it showed that it is bioavailable. But we focus a lot in Young Goose is how do we keep it stable? That's the main aspect. But just as far as like bioavailability and absorption, there's a study showing it doesn't only absorb, but is incredible at stimulating fibroblast proliferation, which means how many engines of collagen and elastin creation we have. So it basically improves collagen production, elastin production, hyaluronic acid production. We know that. We also know that NAD can be elevated in cells and then boosted by other ingredients like we've been talking about for years. There's a new study that was actually in Nature showing that it does both. It doesn't only, or both are effective. Having NAD boosted in skin cells, but also having other ingredients, apigenin was one of them in that study, showing that they work very well together at, skewing the skin shifting the skin to a more youthful state, or the cells to a more youthful state. So, by the way, same thing about spermidine. Many people ask, is it bioavailable?
I will add that I feel like I didn't get to speak to too many non-believers or like people that doubt the efficacy. And maybe that's because I happen to talk to people that use our products, and the proof is really in the pudding. And
by the way, we don't sell pudding. Now people are going to
no, there's no pudding in the box.
We have such standout like customer retention rate. We actually know some of our early customers by names because we did start very humbly, where we would pack our own products and ship them ourselves. And they're still with us, those customers. And that's very rare because skincare industry, it's like you have shiny objects all the time. There is a new trend, there is a new company, there is new ingredient that you want to try. So it is really amazing to me that people have stayed with us for so long. And really, it's because of the result. And I will pass the mic to you. I mean, you've been using our products for a while, for many years.
Oh, listen, you'll have to pry them out of my dying hands. Like at this point, it's...
But you're going to look great dying, by the way.
I'm going to look so good. Listen, I get calls from my mother. I'm out of that serum. Okay, I got you. I get a lot of comments on my skin. And so as Amitay so aptly put it, the proof is in the pudding, even though there's no pudding in the box. Like it's
the closest to a pudding is maybe like a hyperbaric mask. It's kind of pudding.
Yeah, but that hyperbaric mask is magic. Anyway, we could do a whole episode on that. So, and let's just talk a little bit, because very quickly, this is a myth. A lot of people will say, well, I started taking spermidine and honestly, I think my skin looks better. And they're like, well, is topical use going to actually make a difference? I'm going to say yes, but I want you to answer that.
I will say that, first of all, I want our customers to take all their vitamins, all their supplements. It's never just topicals. It's always like the combination, the 360 approach. You want to do, take care of your body, your health. So yes, please take your spermidine. And if I take, let's say, omega-3s, I also feel like my skin benefits from it. It's not to say that it will make it or break it or can replace having topical skincare, but having your supplements is paramount. You should have good nutrition, good supplements. You should sleep really well. And you know what? Maybe that same person will be like, I finally started sleeping through the night. Like we keep going back to the fact that we're parents of a toddler.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I feel like if you give me a couple of nights of 8 hours sleep, I will also look glowing and more than I do when I get the sleep that I get now. So please meditate, work out, sleep well, take your supplements, and it will Drinking water, all of this cumulatively will show up on your skin. There are so many things that you can do outside of skincare, besides skincare, that will show up on your skin.
But I want to answer the question about spermidine.
Yeah.
So spermidine is so prolific at, pressing those levers of youthfulness that you're going to see mainly your hair, skin, and nails are going to be one of the first things that are going to show you results in that aspect, mainly because they renew very often. So they're going to get that holistic results, or they're going to provide you with a mirror of that holistic results sooner than first of all, you can see them, but also sooner than other things that are taking more time. That's number one. But number two, spermidine is really awesome because you're not the only one profiting from it. It's also your microbiome, which are not a part of you. They're their own organisms. They actually also need autophagy to function correctly. Yeah. And there is a study showing that the application of spermidine on the skin improved skin microbiome function. And that's part of barrier function that we talked about earlier. But it also showed improvement in collagen production and elastin production. So yes, it works topically. Yes, you need it topically. And not only you need it topically, these little creatures that live on your skin will benefit from it.
But now they were speaking about taking it orally, not topically.
No, they said,
both. You need both, right? Because that's the thing. I think that it's about the topical story as well. That's
I didn't hear that second part.
By the way, not only that, we had people in our marketing team. That was a long time ago, granted, but that they were saying, hey, let's have an angle where we're telling people, hey, if only you care about your appearance, we can save you a lot of money in supplements. And we said outright, and a few team members actually brought it up in different times. And we also always say, no, this is not a good message to have as a company that is interested in longevity. We want people to have holistic longevity first, and then obviously address their skin.
And a healthy body is gonna support better skin anyway. Exactly. We know that our health from within is reflected on our skin in many ways. Okay, so last one. Well, second to last one, because my notes say last one, but then there's another one after the notes. So we're gonna.
Did I write your notes? It sounds like me. Okay.
No.
Is niacinamide enough for skin longevity, or is there more to it than that?
Niacinamide is good if you did it once in a while. There is a problem of doing it every day. Nastia, you seem to be...
No, I
seem to be... Oh, it's that again. So I want you to go ahead.
Well, first of all, it's one of your bread and butter topics. So that was more of like why I reacted like this.
Okay.
I know just Amitay loves to talk about niacinamide. He has like a love-hate relationship with this ingredient. I'm much more like neutral. I just think it's not all that. I think niacinamide will not be that longevity molecule sometimes people make it out to be or want it to be. I don't think it's going to be as effective as other NAD plus precursors. And what we also found out here at Young Goose, like when we launched our very first formulation, we just had disintegrated NAD plus, like NR and MN and, like even tryptophan. But we learned as we go. Now on the market, we already have a third generation of that reiteration because we just keep learning that it needs more and more support to give you that best outcome of the raising NAD plus, and that's the angle where we're looking at here with niacinamide, because it is like there is a pathway where it's converted into NAD plus and it's effective.
From a longevity standpoint, niacinamide is registered by the body as kind of the waste material of NAD synthesis and usage, and it goes kind of cyclically, right? So this is the bottom of the cycle, Right. So sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. So this is when you're down. You have a lot of niacinamide.
If you overload the down.
The problem with that is that your body kind of gets it as a signal of, oh my God, if you flood the system continuously with niacinamide, not once in a while. So we have it in a product that we, for example, want you to use once a week, as an example. But if you do it consistently, what's going to happen is that you are going to start to lower the activity of things that your body perceives as high ticket items of NAD. For example, your sirtuins, which are your, the enzymes and the genes that encode them of kind of youthfulness, for example.
Yeah.
So it's a bad feedback loop between, having a little bit more NAD right now, but turning off the, again, genes that are responsible for youth that require NAD, because your body is saying, oh my God, I have so much demand for NAD. I have all this niacinamide, which means I used a lot of NAD. I should lower the demand for NAD in other areas. And that actually, again, is not positive for longevity. So once in a while, yes. Over 5%, probably no.
Yeah.
And then every day,
not so
really
much.
No.
Not so much. Okay. All right. So last question. And this really speaks to the fact that Young Goose is, you've invested so much into every product, every ingredient in every product. So it's a premium brand. This is a brand that it's an investment in your skin for today and for the future. But so if someone can't necessarily afford to just, if they're a new customer to Young Goose, let's say, and they can't get the whole longevity matrix of products, is there a hierarchy of where people maybe should start? I often tell people, look, a bottle of Young Goose doesn't last for 30 days. It lasts longer. So start with your core products and then add on as you go.
I get that question a lot because we also go to different in-person events at conferences. So it is a question I've heard many, many times. I tend to see if a person already has a skincare routine in place, because sometimes there will be people that don't use anything. Yeah. I know it's rare these days, but sometimes it happens. Yeah. And then I would want them to have Youth Daily Moisturizer, because it is important to have a moisturizer. And that's the moisturizer that contains many, many of the molecules we talked about today. None of our ingredient products contain all the same molecules. So you don't have, it would have NAD plus Apex, the NAD plus precursors. It has Spermidine, it has GHKCU, it has resveratrol. It's a really great one. Now, if a person is a little bit more advanced, they use a couple of skincare products, the highest concentration of active ingredients always will be in serums. So the serum, I would go for it. If somebody can only do one product, already has a moisturizer, just some kind of moisturizer, let's go for the serum, Youth Reset Serum, because that's where you're going to get the highest concentration of those longevity molecules. And it does have similar molecules to the moisturizer because they work on different layers of the skin. So those kind of are the two I usually recommend. Today, we spent a lot of time talking about the newest products that we have, which is Blue Peptide Spray and the Vampire Exosomes. Because, we've already talked to you, or Amitay talked to you on air about other products. We really wanted to highlight the new ones. But I just think the Youth Reset and Youth Daily is still kind of my go-to. The
spray, the Blue Peptide Spray, is $65 retail. So
that's an easy,
it's very easy for people to see, to check the pudding and see how well the proof is there, because it's a less expensive product than our normal product. I mean, Youth Daily is $176. So it's a big difference. And this is American dollars. The Vampire Exosomes is significantly more. Therefore, is it justifying the price? 100%. If you're looking for an exosome serum, which you should be, that's the best one you're going to find in the market. However, it doesn't cover all the bases. It is definitely the best needle mover, assuming you have a regimen in place.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I think the Vampire Exosomes is that it's that piece of the puzzle that maybe is not the first piece you bring in, but it's definitely, and maybe it's also over a certain age, you need a more aggressive approach to regeneration. But, listen, it's a little, I'm asking you a crazy question, right? I'm asking you which one's your favorite?
It's you're asking who's our favorite child.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say that.
All our children.
We love them all the same.
Yes. But there's a first and a second. There's an order. Yeah. There's a birth order, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You too. This has been fantastic, as always. Let's tell people where they can find you, where they can find the products. I think we have a special offer for our audience.
So you can always find our products on our website, younggoose.com. And we are very active on our Instagram. So it's a place where we try to have a conversation and have a lot of conversation going with our community. So it's young_goose_skincare.
Yep.
And if you love skincare science, you want to go on a deeper dives about ingredients, trends, practices, inside, outside. We talk about nutrition and exercise and everything that goes into place to optimize your skin health.
An hour and a half about methylene blue.
Yes, if you want a deeper dive on any of the ingredients such as methylene blue or exosomes or etc. We have a podcast called Biohacking Beauty Podcast.
Yeah.
So that's where you can find like a longer format of our thoughts and
it's with your promo code.
and information we put out.
I know not 5,
yes,
but there's
it's a
probably
great
another
podcast. People need to subscribe. And then for the special offer, Nat 10 is for if you're the first time customer, you get to use Nat 10. And if you're a repeat customer, you get to use, I think it's Nat 5. And if Nat 5 doesn't work, then it's 5 Nat. So I
think it's not 5, but it's also supposed to be on your ads. So if people listen to the ads, they should know it.
Well, they will know, but this will all be in the show notes, you guys. So it's Biohacking Beauty Podcast. It's Young Goose Skincare, word separated with underscores on Instagram.
And the good news is that your promo code is stackable with anything going on the website. So if there is a bundle, they can put it on top of a bundle. If there is any kind of promotion going on, subscription, it all applies on top. So it's really nice that it stacks with everything.
Stack it. Okay. Well, you two, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thank you so much for your time and for coming on the show. I'm super excited about the new products and the old products because I love them. I couldn't get through my days without them. So thank you so much. And I will look forward to doing this again soon.
Thank you so much for hosting us. You're the best.